Hey guys, how's it going? FGO has finally decided to break new ground by adding a servant from a country that hasn't had any representation in the game yet. Yes, that's right, today we are going to the land down under to discuss the addition of not just an Australian unit, but an Aboriginal one. Now, this character has caused a bit of a stir in the community, and we will get into that later, but my job is to tell you who they are and what they're all about. So, without further ado, let's venture to the land where the women glow and the men plunder to hear the sound of Wandjina's thunder. The Wandjina, and yes, I'm using the plural because it is not a singular deity, are found in the legends and cave paintings of the Wandjina people of Kimberley, Australia. To these people, the Wandjina are considered all-powerful creator gods, and are the ones responsible for forming the land during what the Aboriginals refer to as the dream time, or the dreaming. This in itself is kind of a complicated concept, so I'll do my best to explain it as to how I understand it. During the Dreamtime, the land itself was formless. Cultural heroes and ancestors of those alive today wandered the land and formed it. It is important to note that these beings are to be distinguished differently from gods normally. As these ancestors and heroes traveled and shaped the land, they created song lines that are still used today to follow certain spiritual protocols. During this time, animals were created, as were the heavens, and as time went on, some of these cultural heroes became part of the land itself in the form of rocks, mountains, rivers, trees, and so on. As such, the Aboriginal people have a deep belief in animism, and that certain actions must be done out of respect for the land itself as it is a product of their ancestors. To further make this complicated, the Dreamtime is also translated to roughly mean every when. This is the concept of all things that have happened, are happening, and will happen, all existing at the exact same time. There is no concept of life or death, simply existence, and when a child is born it is because it is the will of a spirit from the Dreamtime. This is also only one interpretation of many, as no two Aboriginal tribes have the exact same belief system, and if I've gotten this off base at all and you're very well versed in Aboriginal legends, please let me know down in the comments. Case in point, the Wandjina, who only appear in the Wandjina group beliefs. This belief is ancient and still ongoing even after 4,000 years. According to legend, the Wandjina came down from the sky during the Dreamtime with the assistance of the Woongur, who is synonymous with the rainbow snake, who is a common creator deity found in Aboriginal myth and helped to shape the land around where they had landed. As they formed the land and brought with them life-giving rain, they also opted to educate the locals on how to treat the world around them. In one such instance, the Wandjina took notice of a pair of boys who were torturing an owl. Offended by this desecration of life, the Wandjina gathered up the Aboriginals and summoned massive bolts of lightning and killed many, and then summoned floods that drowned the others. My interpretation of the moral of this is that just because you have superior power to another doesn't mean that you have the right to use it against them, as one day you may be the weaker one. As such, it was understood that a certain level of respect was required to give to the land and the creatures that inhabited it. Other tales of the Wandjina exist that are more tribe to tribe, but due to the sacred nature of these tales, they're not necessarily available to the public. When a Wandjina was going to die, it went into a cave and then became a cave painting on the wall, at least according to one belief. Other resources I found said that the Wandjina merged with the caves after they had completed their creation activities on Earth. The Wandjina, at their core, are rain and fertility deities. They bring rain at the end of the dry month to revitalize the parched earth, which drinks the rains to become reinvigorated. During this time, the land itself comes back to life, with grasses regrowing, rivers flowing higher than they had in months, and animals re-emerging from their hiding places thanks to the cooler temperatures. As such, the Wandjina are believed to be responsible for bringing life back to the land. They are also capable of demonstrating their own power through powerful thunderstorms with lightning that rattles the earth. There is also the belief in the conception of totems, which put very simply is like a spirit animal but not always an animal. As I mentioned earlier, certain beings in the Dreamtime will manifest into a pregnant woman to be born. The Wandjina themselves can do this, and as such, some people have their conception totem as the Wandjina. People whose totem is the Wandjina are obligated to sing songs to bring about the rains to end the dry times and to sing to end the times of flooding, all in hopes of appeasing the Wandjina. This is something that is still practiced today. In return, the Aboriginals revitalized the paintings of the Wandjina themselves. Only certain members of the tribe are permitted to do this, though they have hired others in the past to do so. All of this, however, is done after a great amount of ritual and ceremony. But in repainting the Wandjina figures, the people effectively breathe rejuvenating life into the Wandjina themselves, thus they exist in a mutually beneficial relationship. As for their appearance, the Wandjina have a rather striking one. They are anthropomorphic, with enormous eyes, no mouths, and rings around their head. Because of this design, there is a belief by some that the Wandjina were actually ancient aliens who came down and terraformed ancient Australia, and that the rings were primitive depictions of spacesuits. This idea was furthered by the ABC TV series Wandjina, in which they claimed the deities were aliens that still existed to this day. This is, of course, a complete load of dingo dick, and the Aboriginals explain what the designs themselves are, and I'm more willing to trust the people who've been around for 4,000 years than ABC Television Australia trademark. The large eyes are representative of the eyes of a storm, and the lack of a mouth is because they did not need one, and if they did have one, their spoken words would be considered too powerful. In some depictions, they have a dot that is akin to a beak, which is likely done either as a mirroring of their sacred animal, the owl. In others, it is more clearly meant to be a nose. As for the various rings around their heads, I found a few different descriptors. One is that they are meant to represent the different types of storms that occur. Light rainfall, torrential downpours, thunderstorms, and hurricanes are all likely represented by the intensity and shape of the rings, and the patterns given to them. Others posit that the rings are hair, and the dots or rays radiating off of them are actually feathers. The dots that appear on their body are actually body paint similar to that worn by the Aboriginals. So, while the simple and easy explanation for anything with a circle around its head being aliens is certainly an explanation that exists, it's also a really stupid one because you're assuming that a planetary voyaging species is forced to use technology that we imagine as a non-planetary voyaging species. Anyway, that's a topic for another time. So, that's the basics as to what the Wandjina are, and I hope that could get across why they are so important to the people who worship them. They are considered still living and sacred in a religion that reveres the natural world. So, as one may imagine, the Wandjina people are pretty protective of their creator god. They have been vocal about misrepresentations of the Wandjina for as long as white people have thought that First Nations designs were cool. Examples of this are when in 2007 a phenomena happened in Perth, Australia, where people were graffitiing images of Wandjina around the city. This created something like a meme among the people of Perth, who would then engage in what's called Wandjina watching and attempt to find graffitied Wandjinas. This led to outrage by the Wandjina people, who claimed only certain artists were even permitted to depict the Wandjina. In fact, it is considered completely inappropriate for a non-Aboriginal person to draw a Wandjina without certain permissions. Another example of this is Ben Osvith's sculpture he dubbed the Wandjina Watchers. This statue depicting the titular god caused outcry from both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people to the point that it was removed from a gallery that it was located in. The artist himself put forth the claim that all is fair in art depictions in defense of his creation. Herein lies the problem with the addition of Wandjina as a servant into FGO. While it is entirely possible that these permissions were taken and received, it is highly unlikely given the nature and setting that is FGO, which has led to some outrage online, with people saying that the depiction is culturally insensitive. On the other hand, I have seen an equal amount of people happy that there is finally some proper Aussie representation. One particular person that I saw did express concerns about the addition of the drop bear that the Wandjina is carrying. My own personal stance is that I have no right as an unrelated person to claim to be a mouthpiece for this tribe, and until they voice their own opinions, I will remain neutral on the subject. From how she is presented in Fate currently, and running off of the Japanese translations, the version we summon is in fact servant verse nonsense, which means that it is not the historical Wandjina, but rather a being that resembles them and whose design was inspired by them, so take that information as you will. Anyway, that is a brief explanation of what the Wandjina are in the books. Thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. I want to apologize for the slower upload schedule lately. I have 3 massive projects that I'm working on right now that you will all hopefully enjoy in the future. Do all the YouTube stuff, but for now, keep your chin up. Peace.